Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, whoever you are and wherever you are. Today is 2nd of August 2026. Apologies on that point of view that I didn't make much of a long video. But I just try to keep in touch on making a daily short videos like one minute clips of my collection. But today I'm doing a probably I would be re-strategizing my position on how I do my videos. Probably I will do once a month video, probably if time is appropriate. I will do once a month video on all the notes that I got from auctions, what I bought, and so forth into the end of the week or the first week of the month. Sorry, end of the month or the first week of the month, So, yeah, that's probably my thinking at the moment whether I would do the video like that because to ease my time and also my time management and organization of how I present my collection. So, last July, these are all what I've got in July, what I've bought as a new items in my collection. So, I believe if I catalog properly, these are the things that I've bought that I haven't presented it in my personal point of view of the notes that I wanted to present. So, yeah. My usual sideline, yeah, pretty much it is really grim, I would say. The world is turning around really, really badly. I think for those who are very religious, probably I can say is coming Judgment Day, like so, election has been blindsided by logic and reasoning to illogical and very radicalized. It makes no sense. The elections, how people chose the legitimate government these days are very haywire. They're going back to despotism style of interests. Race religion has always been played the biggest agenda role for more than 5,000 years. If you look black, I'm white, you're different from me, screw you. I'm Christian, you're Muslim, you're barbaric, you believe in the devil worshipping, blah blah blah, and so forth. The world has been spinning around in this sense for a long time, yet alone the Jewish communities they have suffered oppression for more than 5 to 6,000 years. As heightened the conflict all over again, back to the basic why people go violent. It's not about lust, but probably I can say greed. But the most fundamental of the tool that people use is your race, your identity, and your faith. Your religion becomes the biggest priority in any foundation of election or any vote for a ruling class government. And my country is no exception. Recently, I seen how the state election run. There's a big projection for the next 10 to probably 25 year cycle that the government will become corrupt, a bit more racist agendas. So long the global community enhance that, which what is being done by Donald Trump, many of the countries across the world, including my country, we are emulating what the America is. We are electing a Trump person, people who has the caliber to be like Trump, people who has a caliber or the political party to be like Trump. Radical in religion, radical against race, identity, and so forth. And now many countries are already reflecting that. In UK we have reform. In Australia we have one nation. Who knows what other further nation? Germany has the AfD party, if I'm not mistaken. The abbreviation is correct. AfD. It's a kind of neo-Nazi party. A lot of these radical nationalist parties are now consuming the strategy what Donald Trump do, because in the facade of democracy, how would you influence the people so that you can bring despotism, radicalism into democracy and still hovering in democracy? Well, most of those people have tried in fascist dictatorship, communists, where they call it actually communist, is actually ideology of how to run the government system, not the political system, so to speak. So a lot of center, common sense, democracy thinking, building up healthcare, building up education, having better wages and jobs, all this have thrown to the gutter. Those are not important anymore. The important is my identity, my race, my religion. And it is no exception. My country is heading towards that direction again. I say again, because we had that all along before 2008. After 2008, we started to realize that we need to change. If not, we will be backwater country. We'll be worse than our neighboring country. And right now, people are actually accepting, hey, for the sake of our religion, for the sake of our race, we should how do you say the word is, surrender our economic prosperity, surrender the freedom of rights of other people, other race and religion. It becomes in that sense, and I don't want that to happen. To be honest, we were making good progress to make my country a role model of a very multiracial, yet we are able to govern equally, compassionately for one few agendas that is so important to all people, which is job security, lower taxes, free or better quality of healthcare, quality of education. Those are the most fundamental things that every person wants and needs. But yet, in today's world, we see across, including basically America is the one proposing it, is we can forfeit those agendas and focus on our identity as a race and religion as a priority, trumpeting across the next decade or so. So I'm projecting that in foreseeable future that we need to move our economic, our so-called financial planning towards such a radical move. A hope for a country that is equal rights for everyone is now being tossed to the gutter. So a lot of people, my advice is, if you're doing finance, if you are buying gold, you better be careful where to keep the gold, who you trust with, or where you keep your reserves or your wealth more securely to where. Some might say you go to a more neutral countries that doesn't doesn't have this ideology. Some might say China, but China has its own problems also. So everything is moving towards a very haywire. So I think the world is under a topsy-turvy situation at the moment. So yeah. Anyway, the world is going to be burned. Let it be burned. We choose the world to be burned. We must accept the consequences. God's will is that God's gift, I will always say, is He gave man, women, humanity the power to make choices. Good choices, bad choices, angelic choices, evil choices, sins, winners, whatever. God gave the most ultimate gift is making choice. It is up to us how we make the choice, a right choice or the wrong choice. Those options is available because God gave that option. So as it is, that's how it goes. Well, now back to numismatic collection. So in July 2026, these are the collection that I've collected in I've got from the auction and what I've bought. So I can say majority of them is from the auction. If you watch my video, and if you notice, if you are very active in online auction, you will notice some of these items is in my table. Two of these I bought it from the flea market, which I will be probably going there again today just to have a little walk and have a bit more recreation activity of walking around, meeting people, or seeing what other new collection or something they have. Just open viewpoint. So I'm just gonna talk about this on my collection, and and giving my viewpoint again. A little disclaimer is that everything what I've said is my personal viewpoint without studying those notes detailing from other experts. If I do that kind of video that everybody has regurgitated hundreds of times of it doesn't make sense for me to make a video which I can make my own personal viewpoint before going in deeper into what actually is in history. So they might be wrong, they might be stupid, they might be radically unbelievable, but that is my personal viewpoint. Sometimes when the designers or the people who approve the design have indirect conscious of making those decisions, sometimes it does happen, but it does not record officially on the documents of why they chose that. So sometimes you have to think beyond what is written or what is being engraved on the notes, and that's the fun part for me on banknotes, because banknotes is literally do tell you the history, is events of its time, whether it's a chaotic time, whether it is a peaceful time, whether it's a time of experimental. It tells you a lot of stories. So literally, to me, banknotes is a picture that tells 1,000 words. Literally, it will tell you 1,000 words. So if you look deep enough, you have a lot of critical thinking, and that's the fun part for me in banknotes. It's not just collecting is beautiful and so forth, but studying the notes, understanding why it was designed, why it was made that way, the purposely choices that people made, a decision why the banknote became that way at that time or that era or that year. So that's the fun part. I love history, to be honest. So it does mind boggle me into that, throwing me into that scenario. So okay, enough of that. I try to keep this video short, 45 minutes to an hour, so I'm trying my best. So, okay, the first note let's go from bottom to the top. Now, this one is the commemorative banknote, 75 rupee from the Pakistan, the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, issued by the State Bank of Pakistan. 75 rupees. It's a commemorative banknote. Odd number, 75, is practically, again, I say, in my point of view, 75 denomination is a very odd and rare, of course, denomination to use for commerce. Okay, normally they will break you a 50, 10, 10, or 50, 20, and a 5, that kind of thing, for ease of transaction. But anything that you have a banknote like this, 75 or 25 or 3, it's a very difficult banknote to use in practical sense in a commerce when you're doing transaction. So it's a very odd number. So they put 75 is because on the purpose. It's a commemorative banknote. It's meant for people to keep, not to spend. But of course, it has to be legally legally able to be spent. Okay, it must have its face value of its currency. So 75 rupee is this face value. Now, if you notice that I did two short videos on this note, there are actually two variations. If you notice the pick number, there are two variations. So the other variation I got was the first one they issued, which is all triple A prefix, AAA. Now the triple A series, their banknote, the only difference between this one and the other one that I had long ago is that the triple A one is not fluorescent. You put under the UV light, the prefix and the serial numbers here, they don't glow. While else, starting AAB or AAC onwards, like this one is AAG, they actually glow in the dark under UV light. Sorry, not in the dark, under UV light. It will glow as a security measure. So probably, I would say that it was a last moment of thinking by the bank that, hey, we should enhance the security because they want to avoid counterfeiters and so forth. Or the triple A is they make it special for commemorative. They want to put it in a folder or envelope. I don't know. They haven't seen a folder, but I believe there should be, because it's a commemorative banknote. They will have it put it in the folder, so they didn't need to have the so advanced security measures and so forth. But notes that is other than triple A, they are in a bundle, like they will send it to the commercial bank to distribute to the public and so forth, like a regular currency. So by doing so, they need to enhance the security. So one of the security they have enhanced is actually the prefix and the serial number will be glow under the UV light. Everything else is actually the same. So the only difference is actually the serial number. They glow. So the ones that is triple A is the only prefix on this note that does not glow under UV light. Other than triple A, AAB and onwards, if I'm correct, if you might correct me, am I wrong, is it will glow. So that's the only difference. 75. Now the note itself, the front, I really like the front part. They show all the portrait of the people that are very important in the Pakistan history. So it's like the founding fathers, like in George Washington and so forth. So these are the Pakistan's leaders who founded the country, who built the country and make the country great. The back, on the other hand, is something personally my taste. Not really my kind of things that I like. Green color and having the different greens like dark green, light green is really not sufficiently contrast here. It's very, very plain and flooded across the entire banknote. Personally, in design sense, if I'm designing this, I don't like it. Now, beyond the design, the meaning of this behind it is actually 75 years of the bank, of their independence, the independence. They're also promoting saving climate and species. That is the motive of this behind here, of the design. Okay, I think this animal is like something like a deer, but it is indigenous in Pakistan. It's probably the endangered species or so, or one of the only species living in Pakistan. That's why it's being iconically put in. The logic normally they put in the banknote with animals and so forth. It has to be a native in their country. That's the number one logic sense of the identity why they put animals on the banknote. And this is they put a banknote here with animals is to promote the climate change and so forth, and etc. But mainly this banknote is commemorative is to their independence, 75 years of independence, the country's freedom. So yeah, 75 rupees from Pakistan, commemorative banknote. Serial number that is glow in the dark. Sorry, glow in the UV. Okay, that's one. The other one I had is Sri Lanka. This is from Sri Lanka, 200 rupee polymer, probably the first polymer banknote in Sri Lanka. Coincidentally, I saw it, so I just wanted to get one of it for my Sri Lanka collection. Although it's polymer, so obviously the wear and tear is really severe. Your color is coming off. The fault line here is severely damaged. All the intaglio prints, as you can see, all the smudges here, all have been, especially here, all has been wear and tear, especially the back. You can see. Oh my god, this is one of the reasons I don't. It's really difficult to get a pristine condition for polymer, because even after production, okay, not even used yet, they're already damaged. They are really sensitive. Once they're damaged, it's done. Okay, they cannot be recovered properly compared to cotton fiber banknotes or paper banknotes. So when you're handling a polymer banknotes, if you want to maintain it 70 over 70 grade pristine, be careful when you touch it. Okay, once they got damaged or whatever it is, it's permanently there, obviously. So for those of you who are collecting it, just a little advice from there. Sri Lanka banknotes were quite beautiful. I would say this is really beautiful. It does tell the entire story. Again, it's a commemorative banknote, Independence Day. This is to celebrate, I believe, is 50 years. 50 years of independence. As you can see, they were independent in 1948, and this note was issued in 1998. It's quite an old note for its condition. I think it's really good. Most of it is you can't see anything anymore if they keep on using this note from 1998. But anyway, I got a very considered a really good wear and tear condition note that survived through all these 2 decades. What I really love about this banknote is they show the way of life through history, its culture of the Sinhalese or the Sri Lankans. Really beautiful, really vibrant. Okay, they have their language in if I'm not mistaken, this is Sinhala, and then we have Tamil, and then English. Now they have English, of course. The history is because Sri Lanka is colonized by the British, so they're educated in English. 2 cents there. And those days they don't call it Sri Lanka, they call it Ceylon. For those of you who, read history, the British call it Ceylon. When they got it independent, they call it Sri Lanka. They rename it to Sri Lanka. Color-wise, blue, it was the most universal and most cheap color to use to dye on the polymer at that time, of course, at that time. So compared to using other colors, based on a lot of the polymer at that time, blue was the option color to be printed on for a vast quantity, and its cheapest quantity to be printed compared to other colors, which is vastly more expensive. That is my personal point of view. If you have critics or comments, do put in the comments and educate me. Knowledge is caring, as I always say. the note as you can see, there's a window portrait. You know, that's something iconically what the notes polymer note has. But one thing I really like about this commemorative banknote, it does tell stories across the way of life of the people. A fun fact actually is the dates. In Sri Lanka, they put the year first, and then the month, and then the day. Reverse. If a lot of people doesn't know, this is their official way of writing their year, month, day. With the British and most of the Commonwealth countries, we write day, month, year. And those who follow American is month, day, year. So there's a lot of confusion there. Sri Lanka is one of the unique one that is under the British, but yet they follow in a different form system of identifying their year, month, and day. So 200 rupees, 200 rupees, Sri Lanka, 1998 commemorative banknote. What more can I say? It's exquisitely beautiful for its condition. Vibrant design about talking about their history and their time for Sri Lankans. Really nice. Love it. Now next we go into China. China would be, first note would be the custom gold unit. One custom gold unit from Republic of China, 1930s, printed by Central Bank of China. Now, custom gold unit, I'm just going to summarize a little bit because I kind of collect a lot of them, so a lot of time the video is repetitive of it, so I make it quick and simple. Is that this note is one of the second rarest in this denomination, printed in 1930s. There are 4 variations, if I'm not mistaken. The very difficult one is A variation. A variation is that the problem is actually the signature of the assistant manager and the general manager. At that time, the early days of the bank, they're only a couple of months serving under this position, so their signature was limited in quantity. Okay, there is limited quantity before they change to the next person, or after they resign, or they die, or whatever. They change to this person, so and then they sign on this one. And even this one is the second, I would say second rarest in this one custom gold unit. So it was a really unique find of this note. Now again, this note's principal design is really the same. It's mainly used for custom house, for exchange goods for the price of the gold equivalent to the gold from importing and exporting. They were never meant to be used for the public as a general circulation, but due to hyperinflation and the war, they started to circulate this in the general public, and that's where hyperinflation occurred, where they printed a lot of these type of notes, the custom gold unit, in a bigger denomination. Their biggest denomination is actually 100 custom gold unit, and those custom gold unit is equivalent to the gold price. So when you circulate the notes out, hyperinflation happened, war, pestilence, and that. I know at that time was a bad time in China, really bad time. Civil war with Japan. Everything is haywire. Decentralized government. There's no proper managing of the government to control the entire country. It was in disaster period. So they were desperate. So they started to use a proper system they already in place, and they just shambled the entire system to the public, and it collapsed, creating a lot of these funny notes that created all the way up to 100,000. Created up to more than 100,000 custom gold unit currency, which is a disaster of hyperinflation. But the early notes like this, they were less survived. Either they were destroyed during the Second World War because of war, Japanese invasion. So a lot of these notes don't survive. To find this uncirculated condition is near impossible unless you travel back in time to get these notes. It is near impossible to find this kind of notes in a pristine uncirculated condition. Bear in mind, again, it was during the war period against the Japanese. They were bombing Shanghai, they were bombing Nanking, they were almost conquering China across. Everything will be burned. Things like this is thrown to the gutter, thrown everywhere, burned or whatever. So they don't really survive. You can say all these notes, they are the survivors from the Japanese invasions. So getting such a note, and especially they are printed in a really small quantity, is a miracle. You can find this kind of notes, especially the variation A, because the variation A is that the general manager and the assistant general manager were really short term. It's less than a year, if I'm not mistaken. They serve as the in their official position in the bank before they change to this one, and then after this they change to a new one, which they don't have the serial number on the front. So if you find anything that is serial number on the front like this, especially 1930 notes, except 100, 50, and the 20 custom gold unit, the other rest, they're potentially really rare and interesting notes. So it was a very good find, this note. I got it from eBay. Guess how much I pay? I would say $1. Actually, there was no bidders there. I was very fortunately lucky. I got this for $1. Yeah, $1. But the postal mailing is more expensive than the product itself. And it's funny, I had to pay a tax on this for 30 cents as a tax. So getting this note is really a blessing in disguise. Something that I try to find is really difficult, because this kind of notes right now, those that I don't have, you have to go there itself. Shanghai, Nanking, the areas there, or probably in Taiwan, they might have people survive through those wars and kept this note till today. That's where I have to go and find the watering ground of the lake. So can't find it here anymore. Outside of the country, outside of China, you had to get into there to get those kind of notes or find those notes. So yeah, one custom gold unit, variation B, printed in 1930, with both sides serial number and a governor that is, I think, the second longest reign of its general manager and assistant manager. Yeah, that's for one. Next one, I'll just go from here. The next one in the collection, let's put this one aside. A little bit more fancy is the People's Republic of China. This is 5 yuan. People's Republic of China, printed in 1949. Second series, actually. The first series of the People's Republic of China is 1948. So there's small quantity because it just got independence after October, so they're almost forming the country, and 1949 was the official year they became the de facto government in mainland China. 5 yuan, there's no watermark for such a denomination. Now, of course, the story goes, the problem is a lot of Chinese people have extra money, so they have gentrified China, and a lot of it started to collect exquisite banknotes. Right now, a lot of the Chinese communities in mainland China, they are collecting notes like these. The very first currency in People's Republic of China, and they're really expensive and they are quite rare. Again, based on their situation, the country was in deplorable in economic sense. There were massive famine and so forth. Economic was in shambles. So survivability of the banknotes are also very, very rare. Now there are certain notes they print out as large quantities, of course. Those that you see that highlighted the People's Republic of China that are very expensive, like they cost about 6 figures. Those notes were actually made specifically for the outer region of proper China, the outside of proper China. China, why I say these places is like Xinjiang province or East Turkmenistan, Tibet area, Inner Mongolia, or probably in the northern Manchuria area. Those areas that is not a proper Chinese or proper Han regions, those notes are super expensive, and they're written in, you'll notice they're written in Mongolian, they will be written in Tibetan, I believe there is, and then they are written in Uyghur's language in Xinjiang province, so, or probably in Arabic, yes, probably written in Arabic. So those notes are more rare because the quantity that were printed out really small, and they were used in those outskirt regions, really out of China's center core regions. Now the center core regions like this note, they are used in proper China or the Han Chinese territories. So these notes were printed in large quantity because the Han Chinese were nearly 80 to 90% of the total population in China. So they have vastly larger population, so the quantity for those notes is larger. Now this note, they're still using the calendar of the year of the Republic. Okay, they still use the year of the Republic because many of those generation people that lived since 1911 or 1912 technically, 1912 onwards, the Chinese calendars were a little bit different. They still use Gregorian calendar for commerce, but official government years of the China's years, they still use like the reigning periods, like the emperor, like the imperial years. So they were saying it. This one here is the Republic year 38. Something like that. So this is very awkward. When the People's Republic of China took over, they still use the Republic of China's calendar because it was during a transition period when they need the people, in my belief, is that they don't understand these calendar. What does this mean? I don't know what is 1949, but in those days, they would know that, I know what year it is because it's written here, the year of the Republic, 38. See what I mean? Although it sounds really stupid, but yeah, it was at that time. Because large urban areas of China were part of the Republic of China. They just entered into the People's Republic of China. So they're trying to adapt to it. So they should have a smooth transition. So the banks at that time, the People's Republic of China, they try to accommodate those situations. So one of those notes like this one that is in the majority in urban areas, that is a proper China or Han, or previously was heavily occupied by the Republic of China, by the Kuomintang. They use this as their calendar, so they still adapt to it. Then after a couple of years back, when they used the second series and the third series of the banknote, they removed this calendar, and they straight away just use this because they have already educated enough time to educate the citizens to adapt to the new so-called calendar system. 5 yuan, actually, to be honest, I know the smaller the note denomination, the smaller the size of the paper, which is pretty logic in sense. Of course, at that time they were trying to print notes. Technology was not so great. The figurehead of the person, there's no face, there's no detail of it, but it's really exquisitely nice, actually. And price wise, if you got this for uncirculated condition, which you can get, it still goes up to 4 figures kind of range. It's still an expensive note to get, but I was quite lucky to get this note under 3 figures. Of course, the condition wise is not so great. What can I complain? I don't have enough capital, I don't have enough funds, but I still want it in my collection, so I have to sacrifice the quality over quantity. So 5 yuan, People's Republic of China, or People's Bank of China, 1949, for so-called second part of the first series. So really nice intaglio print. This is one of the safety measures against counterfeiting. So yeah, it's one of the ways way. Okay, moving on. Now, all these 3 notes are the same banks. They are the Bank of Communication during the eras of the Republic of China. All the banknotes they always presented is always locomotive, because Bank of Communication, they are in charge of locomotives, telecommunications, and at that time they are the ones that have capital, because their services are expensive at that time and is really efficient for communication and transporting goods. Railway were a money magnet. At that time, you always have capitalists always venture in railroad construction, and they are always the richest person in the town. During the Victorian eras and years before the Second World War. Now it's different. Now is those who are going to AI, those who are venture to space programs. They are the richest people on earth. Whereas those days, if you can build and own a train or tracks of the railroads, you're actually a millionaire at that time. You are rich. Okay, you are the elites. So it is logic that having a company that is in charge of a lot of these locomotives have a huge capital, meaning they have back funded themselves to create the bank, which is the Bank of Communication. And all the notes they have is always locomotive, all the custom building of their a quarter of the Bank of Communication. The design wise is the same. Most of it have a little change, like colors and so forth. So like one example, this is 1 yuan local currency, printed mainly in the area for Shandong, but they have an overprint here for Tsingtao. As you can see at the back here, there Tsingtao, and then the main print was Shandong. Now, for those of you who collects Bank of Communication, you will notice each denomination or that year print, they have almost a tons of number of variations because of these little prints. Now, why is that? Have that print. Now, the bank is actually centralized in different regions. So this is the main part. The region control in Shandong, but they need to distribute a lot of those notes across the other areas, which is a smaller regional and weaker bank branch. So those are, I call it that the third tier, and this is the first tier, and this is already the second tier banks. So they print from the main bank branch of that province, and then they distribute it to these smaller branches so they can use it in the local currency of that region. So for example, this note at that time was actually distributed and used in Tsingtao, but the notes were originally printed in Shandong, which is originally used for Shandong, but they want to use it in Tsingtao, so they need to put overprint that word Tsingtao, and then they have this word national currency, equivalent to a national currency, as a backed money. Okay, so and they specifically use this note for Tsingtao. but actually it's exchangeable in Shandong or other places like Shanghai, so long it is a legitimate note of Bank of Communication. Okay, now you notice also in the PIC and all the value notes, why this is higher than the other, why this branch is more expensive than the other branch, especially like Shanghai, which is so damn cheap and so damn easy to find. In history, it's very easy. The rarer ones are the smaller branches. The smaller the branch, the smaller the quantity. Okay, the weaker the bank, the smaller the bank of that region or that branch. Today, those notes are very hard to find and very, very expensive. You can find a lot of it is actually Shanghai. Shanghai prints a lot because Shanghai is the commerce, the main business area of China. And that's where the Bank of Communications largest deposits or their wealth accumulation will pull in to Shanghai, so they're able to print a lot of notes in Shanghai, which today we see is like worth only like $10, $20 US, $30 US. They don't worth much. They're easy to find. So these notes like this, on the other hand, they are much harder to find. Of course, if you find Shandong only, without the overprint, yeah, they're cheaper than the ones with this print. Depends. It all depends on the situation of the supply and demand also. But the general rule of thumb of banknotes like these, especially Bank of Communication with the branch issue, why do they have different branch and so forth, is that scenario. The weaker the smaller banks, they are not able to print the money. They will ask larger banks to assist them to print their notes and put an overprint of the region they're going to distribute off to the smaller branch. And smaller branch, if you took it today, looking today, they have less quantity, meaning they are much more expensive, much more rare to find. And you can notice the condition wise, they are very worn off. Wear and tear of these notes are significantly high. Really difficult to find a UNC on this kind of note. Again, this is before Second World War. This note is printed in 1927, and surviving a war, these are the survivals from the Second World War. China was totally went through downturns, not just the Japanese, against the Civil War, and after the Civil War, with the famine under communism rule, they went through a lot of hardship. These notes, and finding it as a uncirculated condition is extremely rare, and they were priced. Actually, I would dare to say it would be priced really, really high for a better condition. But normally general circulation notes that you can find in the market like this is this kind of condition. Rather it's fine, very fine, and highest would be extremely fine conditions. Yeah. So this is for 1 yuan, printed by main branch in Shandong, but mainly overprint in Tsingtao. The other one, same thing, in the different denomination is the 5 yuan Shandong, but is printed for this branch, which is Cefu branch, another small branch of the banknote. Now this banknote has been really severely, I believe somebody repaired this note or so. I'm not too sure about that, but I really normally don't collect this kind of notes like these or purchase this kind of notes. But the reason is it's difficult to find this kind of notes, so I don't gonna take the opportunity to skip if I am not to find this kind of notes. So why not just get it? And it's not one of the easy ones to find. Tofu is not really one of the easy to find. Actually, the higher denomination actually has lesser this note because the region doesn't need to have a higher denomination usage, probably because the citizen at that area doesn't have a lot of money, so they only need to use smaller denomination like 1 or the 5, probably the 10 and the 50. Virtually they don't use it because they don't have that capability to have so much money. The outskirts, normally people are much more poorer, much more weaker in finance, so they don't need a big currency. Probably this is one of the biggest one, yet it's really relatively hard to find also. The other one, just want to show you a pair together. They are the same notes actually. They're actually the same notes. Printed in Shandong. Different serial number. But they are different in a sense that is this too. Now I don't know why yet they done it this way. They have two types of variations from here, and then plus the region overprint. This is Sinan branch, but Sinan branch actually has two. One's like this, and then with a red stamp, and this one I have is with the signature on the governor or whatever, the president and the manager's signature on it. They sign it, not stamp it. Whereas the other one with the seal in the front, the back is Americanly signed, Westernly signed. So these are still the same same presidents, same manager. Okay, they're the same person, but they have a Chinese signature and they have their Western signature of their names. Pretty unique, isn't it? Very unique. This is the only one of the notes that I find in Bank of Communication does it. A same person actually have two signatures, one in Chinese and the other one is westernized. It's still their name spelling out there, pronouncing in Chinese, but they are signed Western style. Okay, they sign in Western style. Whereas they have another one, they sign in Chinese characters. And the front, those that sign in Chinese characters, they will still sign in Chinese characters. Well, the Western sign, the front will be in their seal. The so-called in Japanese they call it hanko. I believe it's here, hanko, where they use the seal to spelling of their name. Two of these notes were printed for Shandong, mass produced it. The only difference is that there's a period where they print this one, is they print it overprint with the Chinese signature, and then this one with the seal, and then they overprint with the branch, which is different. I have this 5 yuan in just purely in Shandong in a Western signature. That one is the most common one. That's the most cheapest one of the Shandong province 5 yuan. Of course, the cheapest one is actually Shanghai. If you got a Shanghai one, those are the really cheap, because Shanghai is the it's the hub of business. So they are wealthy, so they're able to print a lot, and there's a lot of people demand for those notes for the usage, so they print a lot of it. And today, you can find Shanghai very easily, very cheap. Okay, but you can't find those really expensive ones. The one that I have, the most expensive ones that I have is actually this one. Bank of Communication, this is the most expensive one I have. This is in Fengtian. This is printed in Fengtian branch. There are actually two variations. This is A. The other one is a B. A B, there we have another region, if I'm not mistaken. That one is more expensive and much more rarer. But among all the Bank of Communication notes that I have possessed at the moment in my hand, this is the most expensive one. This one is roughly around 3,000 to 4,000 ringgit at the moment for a grade 10. The higher ones, they are already most reaching up to 8,000, 10,000, 5 figures easily if you got a good condition. Again, this is printed in a year of 1923, before Second World War, before the height of the Civil War, before the famine and all the disaster that the Communist Party has brought in the early days before Deng Xiaoping came into picture. These notes survive through those eras. Condition wise, it is horrific. Holes in the middle, missing pieces, the whole shebang. Yet, it survived. And among all my value of my Bank of Communication notes that I have collected, this is the most expensive in my collection for this series. Alright? This is the most expensive one. So I'm okay with the condition because I accept, knowing through history how these notes endure. Getting this kind of conditions, seeing the color really nicely done and so forth, not too shabby, I accept it. I accept it. So yeah, the Bank of Communication, that's what I had. Now the last note I had is kind of my biggest hit note, which is Bank of Israel. Now we go to Israel now. Controversial. Bank of Israel, 50 shekel, 50 shekel. Some people might pronounce it sakalim, but I think it's shekel. Among all the banknotes that issued by the Bank of Israel from the day they started printing until today, the current notes, this could be the most expensive note in their collection. One for a purpose reason is the quantity of this note printout is extremely small, and I happen to got it from the auction, which is a very blessing in disguise. I try to find this note everywhere, and just for fun finding it, seeing how much it is. It's virtually there is no sales. Nobody's selling it because nobody's seen it. A lot of these notes are actually destroyed by the bank. Okay, after it served its purpose. Now, why? Now there are a few types of variation. Actually, there are 4 variations of this note. Okay, there are 4 variations. Before we go that variation reasoning, just tell you a general view of this note. The front, a proper man, Ben Gvir, first Prime Minister of Israel. The banknote in the days at that time, they were quite simple, very solemn design. They're very plain. In a view that to me the note is actually very, very plain. It's written in Arabic, Bank of Israel, and then in Hebrew, Bank of Israel, and of course in English, Bank of Israel. 50 shekel, or 50 shekel, or I call it shekel. Serial number wise there, everything is on there, 50, and here, yep. Very, very plain. I don't know how am I going to explain this note. It's very, very plain. Now we go into something that I probably have understand a bit of this note. During the time when they print this note, okay, there were 4 variations of this note. The common one, actually, a lot of time you find this note is they look all similar, but they just don't have this, the 2 green bar marks. They are missing. Okay, when they're missing this note, uncirculated, worth $10. They are very, very cheap because they were printed vast quantities. And today, if you go to eBay, if you go to any numismatic shops looking for this note, you will find the notes that actually don't have anything here. There's no bars here, no 2 green bars here. That is the most common note available, and they are very, 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 very cheap to get. I have actually one of the other one already in my collection, so it was really surprised I found this variation. And among all the 4 variation, this is the most expensive variation in the market. Projected price, I would say 2,006 to 3,000 ringgit. for its condition. I'm really blessing to get this kind of condition, and for a rare note, it's really a blessing in disguise for me. Now the second variation is, you'll notice here and on the top here they will have block, so-called barcodes, fluorescent barcodes on top. You can see it is a gold colors here. That is the second variation. Now that I don't have that one as an example, but yeah, they really do also considered the second common after the first one I mentioned. That was then the one with the barcodes here, gold color barcodes, faded gold color barcodes. That's the second most common. Then the third most common note for this variation, everything the same, like this, same. There's no bar here, okay, just like that. But rather than 2 green bars here, they have 4 black bars. The 4 black bars is considered the second most rarest of this denomination notes of this variation, and of course 2 green bars is the most rarest denomination of all. Now to identify those that has 2 green bars is actually because of the they can identify by their serial number. 509 and 510 is the only prefix front number with this identification of the 2 green bars, and then subsequently 4 black bars issue probably another 2 more serial prefix, or 3 or 4 more serial prefix, which is have a larger quantity than this one, slightly more than the green one. So yeah, I'm really happy and joyful to get this note for its rare. It's one of the rarest one and most high value notes in the collection for Bank of Israel. Okay, I'm just saying Bank of Israel issue notes only. Prior to the Bank of Israel, notes before Bank of Israel, they are much more rarer and more expensive. Of course, most definitely. But specifically, those that issue under the Bank of Israel, okay, this one is one of the rarest and the most expensive in the collection. Alright. So 50 shekel or shekalim with 2 green bars. Now, why do they have 2 green bars and 4 green bars? Now, just very interesting note there. What I've studied in a very brief literature is that these notes is identified as experimental notes. They were experimenting on the note's durability, okay, for their future purposes. So they were experimenting whether it's successfully to use this kind of note, this type of material, this type of print. Is it durable? Is it usable? And so forth. So they were testing the physical of the note. Similar case that the United States used. They had issued a experimental notes. There were 2 notes. There's the R overprint and the S overprint. 2 different type of notes, 2 different results, eventually makes a decision how the future notes should be printed, or what type of material should be printed, what type of ink should be printed. This note went through those process. Instead of having the overprint of the word, they used identification of green bars and the black bars. So 2 experimental notes actually was issued. One of it is 2 green bars, the other one is 4 black bars. Both of them are actually experimental notes. The Bank of Israel was testing to the public usage, and they got the result eventually, and then they just get a review and so forth, the results, and let's change the course of what the future, how they're going to print on the banknote. Whether it's a failed experiment or this was failed or not, I don't know. I didn't had read in the literature stating whether it is success or not, only knowing that they were used for experimental case study of the note. So yeah, 50 shekel or shekalim, Bank of Israel, 2 green bars, one of the rarest issue and one of the most expensive Bank of Israel notes collection, other than specimen notes, of course. And there you have it. That's all for my collection for today. Or I can say this month. Last July what I bought. So hopefully I will see more notes coming in. I won't be seeing a very expensive one. Mostly I'll try to settle the lower part of the notes, the cheap ones, and so forth. And yeah, hopefully I'll be growing my success of my note collection. I'm planning to save some money because by end of the year I'm going to Taiwan, and that actually makes me jump up to find some of the Republic of China era banknotes and custom gold units in Taiwan later end of the year, and hopefully by that time I could get something that I would be looking for. And yep, that's it. Thank you very much for you. If you do like this video, do subscribe. If you have any critics or any opinions, do put it in the comments there. And if you like to see my future video, subscribe. And that's all for today. Thank you very much, and hope to see you real soon.